Today, we're diving into a fascinating topic that's sure to intrigue history buffs and curious minds alike. Get ready to uncover the real reason why the Anglo-Saxons invaded Britain. It's a revelation that will shock you. Let's kick things off with a lesser-known angle on why the Anglo-Saxons set their sights on Britain. You might think you know the traditional reasons, but we're about to shed light on a different perspective that adds a whole new layer to this historical event. Introduction. Now, before we get into the juicy details, let's set the stage. The Anglo-Saxon invasion is often attributed to conquest, expansion, and the search for new lands. But what if there's more to the story than meets the eye? It's time to unravel the common theories and explore the historical context that shaped this pivotal moment in history. Part 1. Who were the Anglo-Saxons, and why did they migrate? So, let's start with the basics. The Anglo-Saxons were a group of tribes from what is now Germany, Denmark, and the Netherlands. Around the 5th century, they began migrating to Britain, and this period marked the beginning of a significant transformation in the island's history. Traditional theories suggest that these migrations were driven by a combination of factors: the decline of the Roman Empire, pressure from other tribes, and the allure of Britain's fertile lands. While these factors undoubtedly played a role, they don't tell the whole story. One of the most compelling yet often overlooked aspects is the socio-political climate in Europe at the time. The Roman Empire, which had controlled Britain for centuries, was crumbling. This created a power vacuum not only in Britain but across Europe. Tribes and small kingdoms were scrambling to fill the void left by Rome's retreat, leading to increased conflict and instability. This instability was particularly acute in the regions that the Anglo-Saxons called home. Internal strife, coupled with external threats from neighboring tribes, created a perfect storm of turmoil. The Anglo-Saxons, like many others, were looking for a way out of this chaos, a new beginning in a more stable and prosperous land. But there's more. Another layer of this migration story involves climate change. Yes, you heard that right, climate change. During the early 5th century, Northern Europe experienced a series of harsh winters and poor harvests. This led to widespread famine and made life incredibly difficult for the Anglo-Saxons and other tribes. Seeking more hospitable lands with better agricultural prospects became a matter of survival. As if these factors weren't enough, there's also evidence suggesting that the Anglo-Saxon migration was not a sudden invasion, but rather a gradual process. Archaeological findings indicate that there were already established trading relationships between the Anglo-Saxons and the inhabitants of Britain before the so-called invasion. This suggests a more complex and nuanced interaction between the two groups, possibly involving mutual agreements and alliances. Now, let's dive deeper into the socio-political motivations. The Roman withdrawal from Britain left the native Britons vulnerable. They were not only dealing with the internal chaos, but also facing threats from the Picts in the north and the Irish in the west. To counter these threats, the Britons invited Anglo-Saxon mercenaries to help defend their territories. This practice, known as foederati, involved hiring foreign warriors in exchange for land or other rewards. Part 2. The Fall of the Roman Empire and the Anglo-Saxons in Britain. The initial presence of Anglo-Saxons in Britain was, therefore, not entirely hostile. They were invited guests, warriors who came to provide a service. Over time, however, the dynamic changed. As the Anglo-Saxons settled and their numbers grew, they began to establish their own power bases, leading to conflicts with the native Britons and eventually to the establishment of Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. But here's the real kicker, a theory that will challenge everything you thought you knew. Some historians suggest that the Anglo-Saxon migration was driven by a profound cultural and ideological shift. This theory posits that the Anglo-Saxons were not just seeking land and resources, but were also motivated by a desire to escape a changing world back home. During this period, the Roman Empire was not only politically fragmented but also undergoing a significant cultural transformation with the spread of Christianity. The Anglo-Saxons, who were still practicing their traditional polytheistic religions, might have seen this cultural shift as a threat to their way of life. By moving to Britain, they could preserve their cultural identity and resist the tide of Christianization that was sweeping through Europe. This perspective opens up a whole new understanding of the Anglo-Saxon migration. It wasn't just about survival or conquest, it was about preserving a way of life, a culture, and an identity. This adds a profound dimension to our understanding of why the Anglo-Saxons came to Britain and how they shaped its future. To fully appreciate the complexities of the Anglo-Saxon migration, we need to delve into the historical sources and archaeological evidence that provide a window into this transformative period. Part 3: The historical sources. Let's start with the primary sources. One of the earliest and most significant accounts of the Anglo-Saxon arrival in Britain is found in the writings of Gildas, a 6th-century British monk. In his work De Excidio et Conquestu Britanniae, On the Ruin and Conquest of Britain, Gildas describes the arrival of the Anglo-Saxons and the subsequent conflicts with the native Britons. He portrays the Anglo-Saxons as ruthless invaders who brought destruction and suffering to the land. However, it's important to note that Gildas wrote from a decidedly pro-British and anti-Saxon perspective, which might have influenced his portrayal of events. Another crucial source is the Historia Ecclesiastica Gentis Anglorum, Ecclesiastical History of the English People, written by Bede in the early 8th century. Bede, an Anglo-Saxon monk, provides a more detailed and nuanced account of the Anglo-Saxon settlement. He traces the origins of the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms and their conversion to Christianity, offering valuable insights into the cultural and religious transformations that occurred during this period. Bede's work, while more balanced than Gildas, still reflects the biases of his time and the interests of the Christian Church. Archaeological evidence also plays a crucial role in understanding the Anglo-Saxon migration. Excavations of burial sites, settlements, and artifacts have provided a wealth of information about the Anglo-Saxons' way of life, their interactions with the native Britons, and the gradual establishment of their dominance in the region. One notable archaeological discovery is the Sutton Hoo burial site in Suffolk, England. Unearthed in 1939, the site contains a ship burial believed to be that of an Anglo-Saxon king, possibly Raedwald of East Anglia. The burial included an array of exquisite artifacts, such as a helmet, a shield, and various items of gold and silver. These artifacts provide a glimpse into the wealth, craftsmanship, and cultural connections of the Anglo-Saxon elite. Another significant site is the village of West Stow in Suffolk, which has been extensively excavated and reconstructed as an Anglo-Saxon settlement. The findings at West Stow reveal important details about daily life, agricultural practices, and social organization in an early Anglo-Saxon community. The settlement's layout, the construction of houses, and the artifacts found there illustrate the adaptation and integration of the Anglo-Saxons into their new environment. Part 4: The migrations during the early medieval period. Moving beyond Britain, let's consider the broader context of the Germanic migrations during the early medieval period. The Anglo-Saxon migration was part of a larger movement of peoples across Europe, often referred to as the migration period, or the Volkerwanderung. This period, roughly spanning the 4th to 6th centuries, saw various Germanic tribes, such as the Goths, Vandals, Lombards, and Franks, migrating and establishing new kingdoms within the former territories of the Roman Empire. These migrations were driven by a complex interplay of factors, including population pressures, climatic changes, economic disruptions, and the weakening of Roman authority. The Anglo-Saxons were part of this broader pattern, seeking new opportunities and territories in the face of shifting political and environmental conditions. Now, let's turn our attention to the internal dynamics of the Anglo-Saxon tribes themselves. The Anglo-Saxons were not a monolithic group but rather a collection of distinct tribes, each with its own leadership, customs, and territorial ambitions. The main tribes involved in the migration to Britain were the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes. The Angles originated from the region of Angel in present-day northern Germany. According to Bede, the Angles were invited by the British King Vortigern to help defend against the Picts and Scots. The Saxons came from the area around the mouth of the River Elbe, while the Jutes hailed from the Jutland Peninsula, in modern-day Denmark. Each tribe established its own foothold in Britain, leading to the formation of various Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, such as Northumbria, Mercia, Wessex, Kent, and East Anglia. Part 5. Anglo-Saxon Kingdoms. The process of settlement and kingdom building was gradual and often marked by conflict and negotiation. The Anglo-Saxons initially settled in coastal regions, gradually pushing inland and establishing control over larger territories. This expansion was facilitated by their superior military organization and the construction of defensive structures, such as hill forts and fortified settlements. One key element of the Anglo-Saxon military was the Fyrd, a levy of free men who served as part-time soldiers. The Fyrd was organized by local lords, who provided leadership and equipment. This system allowed the Anglo-Saxons to mobilize a large and relatively well-trained fighting force when needed, contributing to their success in conflicts with the native Britons. Another factor in the Anglo-Saxon successful settlement was their adaptability and willingness to integrate with the local population. While conflicts with the Britons were common, there is also evidence of cooperation and assimilation. Intermarriage between Anglo-Saxons and Britons, the adoption of local customs, and the gradual blending of cultures contributed to the establishment of a new Anglo-Saxon identity in Britain. Part 6. Anglo-Saxon religion and their conversion to Christianity. Religion played a significant role in the cultural and social dynamics of the Anglo-Saxon settlement. The initial phase of migration saw the Anglo-Saxons practicing their traditional polytheistic religions, worshipping gods such as Woden, Tuna, and Tai. However, the spread of Christianity in Britain, which had begun during the Roman period, continued to influence the Anglo-Saxons. The conversion to Christianity was a gradual and complex process, often driven by political considerations. Kings and chieftains who converted to Christianity gained the support of the powerful Christian Church, which provided legitimacy and access to broader networks of power and influence. Missionaries, such as St. Augustine of Canterbury, played a crucial role in spreading Christianity among the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. One of the most significant conversions was that of King Ethelbert of Kent, who became the first Anglo-Saxon king to embrace Christianity around 597 AD. His conversion was influenced by his marriage to Bertha, a Christian Frankish princess, and the missionary efforts of Augustine. Ethelbert's acceptance of Christianity set a precedent for other kings and nobles, leading to the gradual Christianization of the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. The establishment of Christianity brought about profound changes in Anglo-Saxon society. The Church introduced new forms of literacy, art, and architecture, fostering cultural and intellectual development. Monasteries became centers of learning and preservation of classical knowledge, contributing to the emergence of a distinctive Anglo-Saxon Christian culture. Despite the spread of Christianity, elements of the old pagan beliefs persisted for centuries, often blending with Christian practices. This syncretism is evident in various aspects of Anglo-Saxon culture, such as burial practices, where Christian symbols and pagan artifacts are found side by side. This coexistence of traditions reflects the complex and layered nature of the Anglo-Saxon identity. Conclusion: the significance of Anglo-Saxons settling in England. As we explore the reasons behind the Anglo-Saxon migration and settlement in Britain, it is essential to recognize the broader implications of these events. The arrival of the Anglo-Saxons marked the beginning of a new chapter in British history, one that laid the foundations for the development of the English nation. The Anglo-Saxon period saw the establishment of new political, social, and cultural structures that would shape the future of Britain. The formation of kingdoms, the spread of Christianity, and the blending of different cultural traditions created a rich and diverse tapestry that defined the early medieval period. The legacy of the Anglo-Saxons is still evident in many aspects of modern British culture and society. The English language itself, with its Germanic roots, owes much to the influence of the Anglo-Saxons. Place names, legal traditions, and various cultural practices also bear the imprint of this formative period. By examining the multiple factors that drove the Anglo-Saxon migration, from socio-political instability and climate change to cultural preservation and religious transformation, we gain a deeper and more nuanced understanding of this pivotal event in history. As we wrap up our exploration, let's take a moment to reflect on the insights we've gained. By approaching history from different angles, we not only enrich our understanding but also appreciate the multifaceted nature of past events. It's essential to embrace diverse perspectives and challenge conventional wisdom to truly grasp the richness of our shared history. Before we part ways, we want to hear from you. Share your thoughts on today's topic in the comments below. And if you're hungry for more historical insights, be sure to check out our other videos for a deeper dive into fascinating historical mysteries. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, keep exploring the past to uncover the secrets of our present. See you in the next video.